Now let's talk about line. And more specifically, we're going to talk about broad angles. Now broad lines, or broad angles, help us to create a map, scaffolding, if you will, of what it is that we are trying to draw by blocking in what we see. This will help guide our drawings and give us a means of focus. This approach is along the same lines as the grid, trusty fella, except it more specifically reflects what we are actually seeing. Broad angles are another set of fine training wheels that will help you draw what you see. Now let me show you exactly what it is you will be looking for. Here we have our friendly bear standing nice and tall, looking good, and we're going to find some broad angles. So, boom, there's one, and another. Now imagine as if you were placing a ruler over the image and we're putting it up against the subject. What angles are created? This is essentially what we are doing. I'll continue around until we've contained our bear with our broad angles and have created a very simple shape. There are three things that are helpful to think about while drawing in broad angles. 1. What direction is the angle? Is it going from left to right to left, etc.? 2. How steep and how long is the angle? Is it almost a horizontal line or a steep vertical line? Or somewhere in between? Think about where does it start and where does it end? 3. How do the angles relate to the picture frame? This will help you determine both its steepness and its length. And I will show you another example to make this a bit more clear. Here you see in orange is the picture frame. This will be our point of reference. The picture frame provides a straight line, whether it's the top, left, right, or bottom, from which you can determine your angles. Notice how I'm using this to help me see how steep these angles are, even when the angle is in the middle of the page. Using the picture frame will be very helpful when determining angles, especially when not tracing over an image and actually drawing freehand. We'll be practicing this principle in this lesson's exercise. Now we're looking for broad angles that create an imaginary outline around the broad shapes. This will give us a fine map to guide us as we continue our drawing. In this lesson, we are picking up a different tool. Instead of using a grid as our map, we are using broad angles, which serve a similar purpose. Now, for simplicity's sake, we'll copy just 2 sets of photographs, which are provided in the Wizards Training PDF download. Now, this exercise will be comprised of 2 parts. First, we will get a feel for broad angles by tracing over a few photographs, just as I'm doing here of this friendly elephant. Now don't think about it too much and just trace around the subject with your angles. Remember, you will be creating simplified shapes in the end that contain the subject and various parts of the image, just as I'm doing here. The images you will be tracing will be provided in the Wizards Training download. The second part of your training will be drawing broad angles freehand while looking at a photograph, just as I'm doing here. The photograph, as well as drawing frames with the grid points, will be provided for you in your training download as well. Similar to our exercise from last lesson, you will utilize your grid points on the picture frame to help put your lines in the correct place. From there, you're drawing in broad angles and remembering to use the picture frame to help you determine the steepness, direction, and length of your angles. As you move through, you will most likely find that sometimes things get a little out of whack or aren't quite accurate. That's no problem and is expected. Just erase and draw again, just like I did. What we are doing here is taking our imaginary grid a step further and giving ourselves a broad map, which is our broad angles for our drawing. It's important to not get hung up on specifics and to see the image from a broad perspective. Otherwise, the image and all its nuances can and will overwhelm you, which can really just get out of control. Our goal is to simplify. This will get us ready for the next step in our next lesson. Now make sure you save your work, as it will be needed for our next Wizards training session. And remember, don't get too hung up on specifics. We're looking for the broad angles. So good luck.